Part 1. The Mask. Concealment. In 1850, a young, brash politician named Otto von Bismarck stood before the Prussian parliament. At that moment, the entire German Confederation was on the brink of war. The Prussians wanted to fight the Austrians. The king wanted war. The generals wanted war. The people were screaming for blood in the streets. Everyone knew Bismarck. He was a hawk. He was aggressive. He was a man who believed in iron and blood. Everyone expected him to stand up and give a thunderous speech calling for the immediate destruction of Austria. But when Bismarck rose to the podium, he did something that shocked the room into silence. He praised Austria. He spoke of them as brothers. He argued passionately for peace. He said it would be madness to fight a war over something so trivial. The liberals in the room, who had hated him for years, were confused. Had he changed? Had he softened? They began to see him as a moderate. They began to trust him. The king was confused, but he was grateful. He promoted Bismarck. He made him a premier cabinet minister. He gave him the keys to the kingdom. Bismarck used that power to quietly strengthen the king's position. He used that trust to build up the Prussian army in secret, modernizing their weapons and training their soldiers. And then, years later, when the trap was finally set, Bismarck turned around and declared war on Austria. Because his army was so prepared, and because the Austrians had been lulled into a false sense of security by his peaceful reputation, Prussia crushed them in just 7 weeks. It was one of the fastest, most decisive victories in military history. Bismarck had used Law 3, conceal your intentions. If he had announced his plan to destroy Austria in 1850, the liberals would have blocked him, the Austrians would have prepared, the other European powers would have intervened. By wearing the mask of peace, he bought himself the time to forge the sword of war. Welcome to Part 1, the strategy of power. Today, we are stripping away the polite fiction of society. We are looking at the foundation of all strategy, the art of silence and misdirection. We are covering Law 3, conceal your intentions, and Law 4, always say less than necessary. The disease of oversharing. We live in a culture that tells you to be an open book. We are told that authenticity is the highest virtue. We are told to speak our truth. We are told to share our feelings, our plans, and our dreams with everyone who will listen. Robert Greene argues that in the realm of power, this is suicide. Most people are open books not because they are virtuous, but because they are weak. They have no self-control. When they feel an emotion, they have to express it. When they have a plan, they have to brag about it to get validation. When they are angry, they have to yell to feel heard. They are essentially vomiting their inner life onto the table for everyone to see. And when you do this, you become predictable. In the game of power, predictability is death. If I know what you want, I can withhold it. If I know what you fear, I can use it against you. If I know your plan, I can set a trap 10 miles down the road. The powerful person is an enigma. They are a void. You look at them and you don't know if they are angry or happy. You don't know if they are planning to promote you or fire you. That uncertainty creates gravity. It forces you to revolve around them, trying to figure them out. Law 4, always say less than necessary. Let's look at the master of this, Louis XIV, the Sun King of France. Louis was the most powerful monarch in European history. His court at Versailles was a viper's nest of intrigue, gossip, and backstabbing. Everyone wanted something from the king. Every day, his ministers and courtiers would come to him with elaborate requests. They would give long, passionate speeches. They would use logic, emotion, and flattery to try and get him to agree to their plans. And while they spoke, Louis would just watch them. He wouldn't nod, he wouldn't frown, he wouldn't interrupt. He would sit in absolute terrifying silence. When the minister finally ran out of breath and stood there sweating, waiting for an answer, Louis would simply say, "I shall see." And then he would walk away. That was it. I shall see. This silence was a weapon. It destroyed the psychological balance of his ministers. They would leave the room analyzing every micro-expression. Why didn't he say yes? Is he angry? Did I talk too much? What does he know that I don't? By saying less than necessary, Louis kept the initiative. He forced others to reveal their hand while he kept his hidden. Consider the alternative. Have you ever been in a negotiation with someone who talks too much? They state their price, and then they keep talking. They explain why it's the price. They justify their costs. They tell you about their tight margins. They make a joke to break the tension.
Every extra word they say is a signal of insecurity. Every extra sentence gives you more information to use against them. By the time they stop talking, you know they are desperate. You know you can lowball them. Power is in the pause. If you want to be powerful, you must learn to be comfortable with the awkward silence. When you ask for a raise, state the number you want, and then shut your mouth. Do not justify it. Do not apologize for it. Look them in the eye and wait. The urge to fill that silence is your shadow trying to sabotage you. Kill it. Let the silence do the heavy lifting. The red herring. Now, a crucial distinction. Concealment is not the same thing as lying, and it is not the same thing as being secretive. If you are always silent, if you never say anything, people will become suspicious. They will think you are hiding something, which you are. They will put their guard up. The most effective way to hide your intentions is not to close up, but to talk endlessly about the wrong thing. This is called the red herring. In fox hunting, a red herring, a smelly fish, was dragged across the trail to distract the dogs from the scent of the fox. In power, you drag a fake goal across the trail to distract your opponents from your real goal. If you are planning a hostile takeover of a competitor, do not go silent. Instead, talk loudly about your interest in exploring into a new market in Asia. Send your executives to Tokyo. Commission studies on the Asian market. Let your competitor watch your left hand while your right hand holds the dagger. Bismarck didn't just stay silent about his war plans, he talked loudly about peace. He threw a red herring so large that the entire continent chased it. When you appear to be an open book about a fake topic, people lower their guard. They think, oh, he's just a chatterbox, he's harmless. That is exactly where you want them. Modern application, the office. How does this apply to your life tomorrow? Let's look at the modern workplace. It is a court, just like Versailles. There is always gossip. There is always someone complaining about the boss. There is always someone sharing their big idea for the new project. Do not join them. When a colleague comes to you and starts venting about the manager, your instinct is to join in. You want to bond. You want to say, yeah, he's such an idiot. I can't believe he did that. Stop. You have just handed that colleague a weapon. You have revealed your intention. You are unhappy. 6 months from now, if that colleague wants your job, they can use that comment to paint you as disloyal to the boss. Instead, wear the mask. Listen, nod, ask questions. Oh really? Why did he do that? Let them talk. Let them reveal their dissatisfaction. Gather the intelligence, but give nothing back. Say, that sounds frustrating. And then go back to work. You will be amazed at how this changes your reputation. People will start to see you as discreet. They will start to trust you with more secrets because they know you don't blab. You become the vault. And the person who holds the secrets holds the power. The homework, the 24-hour vow of silence. I want to give you a specific challenge for the next 24 hours. This is your initiation into the world of strategy. I want you to practice strategic silence. For one day, cut your word count by 50%. Stop explaining. When you do something, do not explain why you did it unless explicitly asked. Just do it. Stop fillers. When there is a lull in the conversation, do not jump in to save it. Watch the other person. See what they do to fill it. The 3-second rule. When someone asks you a question, count to 3 in your head before you answer. This does 2 things. It gives you time to think, and it makes your answer seem more weighted and authoritative. You will feel an intense pressure to speak. You will feel your ego screaming, say something smart, make them like you. Suppress that urge. Observe the results. Notice how people lean in when you finally speak. Notice how they start over-explaining themselves to you. Notice how much information you gather when you aren't busy broadcasting your own. Bismarck didn't unite Germany by shouting his plans from the rooftops. He did it by wearing a mask so perfect that no one saw the iron underneath until it was too late. The world is noisy. Be the quiet one. In the next part, we are going to look at the most dangerous relationship in your life. It is not your enemy. It is your master. We are going to learn why talent is dangerous, why outshining the boss is a fatal mistake, and how to navigate the fragile egos of those above you. I'll see you in part 2, The Sun.
Part 2. The Sun. Managing Superiors. On the evening of August 17th, 1661, Nicolas Fouquet threw the greatest party in the history of France. Fouquet was the finance minister. He was brilliant, wealthy, and incredibly generous. He had just finished building his chateau, Vaux-le-Vicomte, a palace so beautiful it made the king's residence look like a barn. To celebrate, he invited the king, Louis XIV, and the entire court. The party was a masterpiece. The food was exotic. The music was written by the greatest composers in Europe. There was a fireworks display that lit up the entire sky. Fouquet thought he was securing his future. He thought he was showing the king, look how capable I am. Look at my taste. Look at how well I serve you. He thought the king would be impressed. He was wrong. The king wasn't impressed. He was terrified. Louis XIV looked at the chateau and thought, this man is richer than I am. He is more popular than I am. He is outshining me. The next day, Louis XIV had Fouquet arrested. The charge was embezzlement, which was technically true, but everyone did it. Fouquet spent the last 20 years of his life rotting in a solitary prison cell in the Alps. His mistake wasn't stealing money. His mistake was violating the first law of power: never outshine the master. Welcome to Part 2, the strategy of power. Today, we are discussing the most dangerous person in your life. It isn't your enemy. It isn't your competitor. It is your boss, your mentor, your master. We are covering Law 1, never outshine the master, and Law 46, never appear too perfect. The ego of the master. We grow up believing in a meritocracy. We are taught in school that if you get the best grades, you get the gold star. If you work the hardest, you get the promotion. If you are the smartest person in the room, you win. Robert Greene warns us, in the real world, merit is secondary to ego. Every human being has a deep, primal need to feel important. We need to feel like we are the smartest, the most capable, the sun around which others orbit. This is especially true for people in power. When you display your talents too brightly, you might think you are winning their favor, but often you are actually triggering their insecurity. If you are smarter than your boss, you make them feel stupid. If you are more charming than your boss, you make them feel dull. If you are more competent than your boss, you make them feel replaceable. And a master who feels replaceable will replace you first to regain their sense of security. This is the Fouquet paradox. The better you are at your job, the more danger you are in, unless you know how to manage the ego above you. The two types of masters. To navigate this, you must identify what kind of son you are dealing with. Type A, the insecure son. This master is deeply fragile. They need constant validation. If you have a good idea, they steal it. If you get a compliment from a client, they scowl. Strategy. You must play the naive child. Make mistakes on purpose, small, harmless ones, so they can correct you. Ask them for advice on things you already know the answer to. Let them feel like the teacher. Don't say, "I solved the problem." Say, "I used your advice from last week and it worked perfectly." Type B, the falling son. This master was once great but is now declining. They are older, slower, and out of touch. Strategy. This is the most dangerous zone. If you show off your modern skills, tech, new trends, you remind them of their age. You remind them of their mortality. You must frame your new ideas as extensions of their old wisdom. Don't say, "This is the new way to do it." Say, "This is just a modern application of the principle you taught me years ago." Tactical dimming, how to hide your light. So does this mean you have to be mediocre? Does this mean you can't be great? No, it means you must be cunning. You can be a genius, but you must cloak your genius in a way that flatters the master. Here are 3 tactical ways to outshine without getting burned. 1. Attribute your success to their mentorship. Whenever you achieve a victory, immediately pivot the credit. Galileo was a master of this. When he discovered the moons of Jupiter, he didn't name them after himself. He named them the Medicean stars after the Medici family, his patrons. He said, "These stars represent your glory, not mine." By giving the glory to the master, he secured his funding for life. 2. Ask for help you don't need. Even if you know exactly how to fix the project, go to your boss and say, "I'm stuck on this one part. How would you approach it?" When they give you a vague answer, say, "That's brilliant. I hadn't thought of that." Then go fix it exactly how you plan to. You get the result, but they get the emotional cookie of feeling like they guided you. 3. The accidental brilliance. If you are naturally smarter than your boss, try to make your ideas seem like luck or hard work rather than raw intelligence. People hate natural genius. It makes them feel inferior. They respect grinding. If you solve a complex math problem in your head, pretend you spent all night working on it. It makes you seem less threatening. Law 46. Never appear too perfect. This leads us to a darker corollary, envy. It is not just the master you have to worry about. It is your peers. If you are too perfect, if you succeed too easily, if you never struggle, if you are always happy, you generate envy. And envy is the most destructive emotion in the human arsenal. It creates silent enemies who will sabotage you just to see you fall. Robert Greene advises, occasionally reveal a defect. If you just got a massive promotion, do not walk around beaming. Complain a little bit about the workload. Mention a small failure or a bad habit. "I'm terrible at organization," or "I have a weakness for junk food." These harmless flaws make you human. They act as a lightning rod, grounding the envy before it can strike you. Gods are hated, humans are tolerated. Be human. The counter-argument, when to shine. Is there ever a time to outshine the master? Yes. If the master is weak, failing, and about to fall, do not hold on to a sinking ship. If you are sure the hierarchy is about to crumble, then and only then you step out of the shadow. You let your brilliance shine so that their boss sees you as the replacement. But be careful. If you miss and the master survives, you are Fouquet. You are in the dungeon. Modern application, the credit thief.
We've all had the boss who steals our credit. You do the work, they present the slide deck, and they take the applause. Your instinct is to fight. You want to send an email saying, "Actually, I did that." Don't. In the short term, letting them take the credit is the price you pay for power. By letting them take the credit, you make them dependent on you. They know deep down that they cannot do it without you. You are building a web of dependence, which we will cover in part 5. Eventually, when they are promoted, they will pull you up with them because they need their brain to come along. Or, if they are truly incompetent, you wait. You let them take the credit until the project that is destined to fail comes along. Then you step back. You let them take the credit for the disaster too. Summary for part 2. The sun is powerful. It gives life. But if you fly too close, it melts your wings. Your goal is to stand in the warmth of the sun, not in its path. Make your masters appear more brilliant than they are. Conceal your own strengths when necessary. Never let your ego trick you into thinking you are safe just because you are right. Nicolas Fouquet died in prison because he needed to be the center of attention for one night. Don't be Fouquet. Be Galileo. In the next part, we are going to talk about the only asset you truly own. It is the shield that protects you when you make a mistake. It is the weapon that enters the room before you do. We are going to talk about reputation. I'll see you in part 3, the shield.
Part 3, the shield, reputation. Let's travel back to ancient China, the War of the Three Kingdoms. The legendary strategist Zhuge Liang was sitting in a small town with a handful of soldiers. Suddenly, a scout arrived with terrifying news. The enemy general, Sima Yi, was approaching with an army of 150,000 men. Liang had no army. He had no time to flee. He was dead. But Zhuge Liang did something strange. He ordered his soldiers to hide. He threw open the city gates, and then he sat alone on top of the city wall, lit some incense, and began to play the lute. When the massive enemy army arrived, General Sima Yi halted. He saw the open gates. He saw the strategist sitting there, calmly playing music. Sima Yi knew Zhuge Liang. He knew Liang's reputation. Liang was known as the most careful, prudent man in China. He never took risks. So Sima Yi thought, if the gates are open and he is this calm, it must be a trap. There must be an ambush inside. Terrified by Liang's reputation for cunning, Sima Yi turned his army around and fled. Zhuge Liang saved an entire city without firing a single arrow. He defended himself with nothing but the story that people told about him. Welcome to part 3 of the strategy of power. Today, we are discussing the only asset you truly own. It enters the room before you do, and it stays in the room after you leave. We are covering Law 5. So much depends on reputation. Guard it with your life. The nature of the shield. In the laws of physics, a small object can move a large object if it has a lever. In the laws of power, your reputation is that lever. If you have a reputation for being a genius, people will applaud your mediocre ideas. If you have a reputation for being an idiot, people will ignore your brilliant ideas. If you have a reputation for being ruthless, people will surrender before you even attack. Robert Greene argues that most people leave their reputation to chance. They act however they feel in the moment, and they let others decide what to think of them. This is dangerous. A reputation is like a garden. If you do not plant flowers, weeds will grow. If you do not define your reputation, your enemies will define it for you. You must view your reputation as a shield. When you make a mistake, and you will, a strong reputation protects you. If a man known for his honesty tells a lie, people will say, he must have had a good reason. If a man known for lying tells a lie, people will say, there he goes again. The action was the same. The reputation dictated the consequence. Step 1, constructing the persona. So how do you build this shield? You cannot be known for everything. A reputation for being a nice guy who works hard is weak. It's forgettable. You must choose one singular quality to build your myth around. Think of the greats. Bismarck, the Iron Chancellor, strength. Casanova, the great lover, charm. Steve Jobs, the visionary, innovation, perfectionism. By focusing on one quality, you become memorable, you become a caricature, and once you establish that quality, it does the work for you. Steve Jobs didn't have to scream at people to get them to work hard. His reputation for perfectionism terrified them into working hard before he even walked into the room. The strategy. Choose one tag you want attached to your name. Efficiency, cunning, generosity, ruthlessness. Once you pick it, perform it theatrically. If you want a reputation for efficiency, never be late. Not once, not by a minute. Be extreme in your adherence to that trait until it becomes a legend. Step 2, the offensive weapon. Reputation is not just a shield, it is a weapon. You can destroy an enemy simply by attacking their reputation. This is called slander. In the corporate world, we see this all the time. If you want to take down a rival, you don't argue with their data. You cast doubt on their character. You drop a subtle hint. He's very smart, but sometimes he struggles with the details, doesn't he? Once that seed is planted, the boss will look for struggles with details in everything that person does, and because of confirmation bias, the boss will find it. You have poked a hole in their shield. However, Greene warns us, slander is a double-edged sword. If you are caught slandering someone clumsily, it ruins your reputation.
You become known as the gossip or the snake. If you attack, you must do it with irony. You must do it with a smile. You must make it seem like you are concerned for them, not attacking them. Step 3, defending the citadel. What happens when someone attacks your reputation? This is where most people fail. When we are attacked or insulted, our instinct is to get angry. We want to defend ourselves. We want to write a long email explaining why the accusation is false. Do not do this. Defensiveness suggests guilt. If you get angry, you show that the insult hurt you. You show that you take the attacker seriously. The powerful response to a reputation attack is disdain. You treat the attack as if it is beneath you. You treat the attacker as if they are an annoying buzzing fly. Don't say, "That is a lie. I am not incompetent." Say, laughing, "Oh, John is upset again? Let's get back to work." By ignoring the attack, you deprive it of oxygen. You show that your shield is so strong that the arrow simply bounced off. Modern application, the digital archive. In the 17th century, you could move to a new town and start over. Today, the internet is written in ink. Your reputation is your Google search history. It is your LinkedIn profile. It is that tweet you sent 5 years ago. This makes Law 5 more critical than ever. You must be paranoid about your digital footprint. Do not engage in petty arguments online. Do not post emotional rants. Every single thing you put into the world is a brick in the wall of your reputation. Is that brick strong or is it crumbling? The label trap. Be very careful about the labels people try to put on you early in your career. If you become known as the tech guy, you might never be considered for management. If you become known as the joker, you will never be trusted with serious decisions. If you feel a label sticking to you that you don't like, you must act drastically to break it. Do something completely out of character to shatter the mold. The homework, the word association audit. Here's your task for this section. It is uncomfortable, but necessary. I want you to perform a reputation audit. Ask 3 people, a friend, a coworker, and a mentor, this question. If you had to describe me to a stranger using only 3 words, what would they be? The answers will shock you. You might think you are strategic, but they might say quiet. You might think you are assertive, but they might say rude. Whatever they say, that is your reality. Reputation is not what you think you are, it is what they think you are. If you don't like the words they chose, you have work to do. You need to start performing the new quality you want. You need to start building the new shield. Because remember, Zhuge Liang didn't save the city with a sword, he saved it with a story. In the next part, we are going to look at the futility of words. We are going to learn why arguing is a trap, and why you should never ever try to prove someone wrong with logic. We are going to talk about action. I'll see you in part 4, the sword.
Part 4, the sword. Action versus argument. In 131 BC, the Roman consul Mucianus was laying siege to the Greek town of Pergamum. He needed a battering ram to smash down the city gates. He sent a messenger to a nearby shipyard with a specific order: "Send me the largest shipmast you have." The naval engineer at the shipyard received the order. He looked at the request. He looked at the masts. He was an expert. He knew that the largest mast was too heavy and cumbersome. He knew that the smaller mast would be faster, easier to transport, and pack more force. So, being a logical man who wanted to help his general, he disobeyed the order. He sent the smaller mast. He included a note explaining the physics of why the smaller mast was better. He thought he would be praised for his intelligence. When the smaller mast arrived, Mucianus was furious. He didn't care about the physics. He cared about obedience. He ordered the engineer to be brought to him. The engineer arrived, confident. He started to explain the math. He started to argue his case. "Sir, if you look at the velocity..." Mucianus didn't listen. He ordered his soldiers to strip the engineer naked and flog him to death with heavy rods. The engineer was right. The smaller mast was better. But he won the argument, and he lost his life. Welcome to part 4 of the strategy of power. Today, we are looking at the futility of words. We are looking at why trying to convince people with logic is a trap that destroys your standing. We are covering Law 9. Win through your actions, never through argument. The Pyrrhic victory of argument. We love to argue. When someone disagrees with us, our ego flares up. We think, if I just explain the facts, they will understand. If I just show them the data, they will agree. Robert Greene warns us, this is a delusion. When you argue with someone, you are not attacking their ideas. You are attacking their intelligence. You are attacking their pride. Even if your logic is perfect, you are making them feel stupid. And people who feel stupid do not agree with you. They resent you. You might win the battle. They shut up. But you lose the war. They now hate you and will sabotage you later. The engineer in Pergamum didn't understand that Mucianus didn't want a physics lesson. He wanted to feel like a powerful general whose orders were absolute. By arguing, the engineer insulted the general's authority. Words are interpreted according to the mood of the listener. If your boss is insecure, your helpful suggestion sounds like criticism. If your partner is tired, your logical explanation sounds like nagging. You cannot control how people hear your words. But action is undeniable. We don't argue with a burning building.
We don't argue with a check clearing in the bank. We don't argue with a scoreboard. Action bypasses the ego and hits the brain directly. The Michelangelo tactic. So, what do you do when the boss is wrong? Do you just let them fail? No. You use demonstration. Let's look at Michelangelo. When he was carving his masterpiece, the David, the mayor of Florence came to visit. The mayor was pompous and wanted to look like an art critic. He looked at the statue and said, "It's magnificent, but the nose is too big." Michelangelo knew the nose was perfect. He knew the mayor was an idiot who was looking at it from a bad angle below the scaffolding. If he had argued, "No, sir, it's just the perspective," the mayor would have dug in. The mayor would have forced him to ruin the statue just to prove a point. So Michelangelo didn't say a word. He invited the mayor to climb the scaffolding with him. Michelangelo picked up a chisel and secretly grabbed a handful of marble dust from the floor. He went to the nose and started tapping lightly with the chisel. He wasn't actually cutting anything. He was just letting the dust from his hand fall down. The mayor watched the dust fall. He thought Michelangelo was fixing it. After a minute, Michelangelo stopped and asked, "Look at it now." The mayor looked and said, "Ah, much better. Now you have given it life." Michelangelo saved his statue, kept his integrity, and made the mayor feel happy, all without a single word of argument. This is the height of power. Agree verbally, then act as you see fit, or create a situation where the other person discovers the truth themselves. Modern application, the silent demo. How does this apply to your career? Stop sending long emails explaining why your strategy is better. Stop debating in meetings. Build the prototype. If you think the new software is better, don't argue for it. Install it on your laptop, do the work twice as fast, and let your boss see the result. When they ask, "How did you do that so fast?" you say, "Oh, I used this tool." Suddenly, they want the tool. You didn't sell it, you demonstrated it. The show don't tell rule. If you are a designer, don't argue about why the blue is better than the red. Mock up both versions, put them side by side. The eye will naturally go to the better one. You remove your ego from the equation. It's not my idea versus your idea. It is image A versus image B. The power of symbols. Law 9 goes deeper than just practical demonstration. It touches on the power of symbols. Greene argues that symbols are the ultimate form of action. A symbol conveys a message without words, so it cannot be argued with. When the colonies wanted to unite against Britain, they didn't write a 50-page essay on unity. They drew a snake cut into pieces with the words "join or die." It was visceral. It was instant. When a king wanted to show his power, he didn't give a speech about his wealth. He wore a crown of gold and velvet that was so heavy he could barely lift his head. The crown was the argument. In your life, use visual symbols to communicate your status. The way you dress is an action. The neatness of your desk is an action. The calmness of your demeanor is an action. These things tell people who you are more effectively than any LinkedIn bio ever could. The only exception. Is there ever a time to argue? Yes, when you are powerless and caught in a lie. If you have been caught doing something wrong, action will only reveal your guilt. In that case, you must use words to create a smokescreen. You argue to distract. But if you are trying to advance, if you are trying to win, words are dead weight. The homework, the no argument diet. Here is your practice for this week. I want you to go on a no argument diet. For the next 3 days, catch yourself every time you are about to say the word because. Because is the start of an argument. It is the start of a justification. If your partner says you didn't clean the dishes well enough, do not explain why. The sponge was old, you were tired. Just pick up the sponge and clean them again. Watch how quickly the tension dissolves. If your boss critiques your report, do not defend your logic. Say, "I see, let me take a look at that." Then make the change, or use the Michelangelo tactic. Notice how much energy you save. Notice how much more dignified you feel. When you argue, you are dancing to someone else's music. When you act, you set the tempo. The truth is generally seen, rarely heard. In the next part, we are going to look at the structure of your relationships. We are going to ask a hard question. Who do you actually need? We are going to cover the terrifying reality of dependency. I'll see you in part 5, the web.
Part 5. The web. Dependency. Let me tell you the story of King Louis XI of France, known as the Universal Spider. Louis was a ruthless, paranoid king. He believed heavily in astrology. He had a court astrologer whom he consulted for everything. One day, the astrologer predicted that a favorite lady of the court would die within 8 days. She did. Louis was terrified. He thought, "This man has too much power. He knows too much." He decided the astrologer had to die. He summoned the astrologer to his room, high up in the castle tower. He told his guards, "When I give the signal, pick him up and throw him out the window." The astrologer arrived. The king looked at him and asked a trap question. "You claim to know the fate of others. Tell me, how long do you have to live?" The astrologer paused. He sensed the trap. He sensed the guards behind him. He looked the king in the eye and said, "I shall die exactly 3 days before your majesty." The king froze. If he killed the astrologer now, he believed he would die 3 days later. The king signaled the guards to stand down. Instead of killing him, the king protected the astrologer for the rest of his life. He hired the best doctors to watch over him. He fed him the best food. Because the king's survival was now tied to the astrologer's survival. The astrologer had created absolute dependency. Welcome to part 5 of the strategy of power. Today, we are talking about leverage. We are talking about why being loved is useless and being needed is invincibility. We are covering Law 11. Learn to keep people dependent on you. The myth of independence. We live in a culture that worships independence. We want to be free. We want to answer to no one. Robert Greene argues that total independence is a fantasy. Unless you live in a cave and hunt your own food, you are part of a chain. Power is not about being independent. Power is about where the dependency lies. If you are dependent on your boss, you are a servant. If your boss is dependent on you, you are the master. Many people try to be liked at work. They think, if I am nice, if I bring donuts, if I am a team player, they won't fire me. This is false. Necessity rules the world. People will fire a nice person to save $1, but they will tolerate a rude person if that person is the only one who knows how to run the servers. You do not want to be the disposable cup. You want to be the water. The secret of the spring. So how do you build this dependency? You must possess something that cannot be easily replaced. In the Renaissance, the greatest artists, Michelangelo, Raphael, were not just hired hands. They possessed a style and a skill that no one else could replicate. Popes and kings begged them to work. The popes had to tolerate their temper tantrums because there was no plan B. In the modern world, this is called specific knowledge. If you are a copywriter, do not just be a good writer. There are millions of good writers. Be the only writer who understands the specific psychology of the crypto market in Southeast Asia. Niche down until you are a monopoly of one. The strategy. Look at your current role. If you left tomorrow, how long would it take to train your replacement? If the answer is 2 weeks, you have 0 power. You are in danger. If the answer is 6 months, or it's impossible, the whole system would break, you own the throne. The trap of teaching. This brings us to a controversial tactic. Do not teach everything you know. We are taught to be good mentors. We are taught to document our processes. From a power perspective, this is suicide. If you document every step of your job so clearly that an intern could do it, you have just handed your boss the blueprint to fire you and hire a cheaper intern. You must keep a black box. You can be helpful. You can be effective. But there should be a core part of your process that remains in your head. When people ask how you did it, give a vague answer. It requires a bit of intuition and finesse. Keep the key in your pocket. Love versus fear. Niccolò Machiavelli famously asked, "Is it better to be loved or feared?" His answer, "It is best to be both, but if you must choose, choose fear." Law 11 is a softer version of this. It is better to be needed than loved. Love is fickle. It changes with the mood. A boss can love you on Monday and fire you on Tuesday because the budget was cut. But need is durable. Need is structural. If they need you to survive, they have no choice but to keep you. Consider the unpleasant genius. We all know someone at work who is grumpy, difficult, and refuses to attend meetings. Yet they get paid the most and never get fired. Why? Because they are the keystone. If they leave, the arch collapses. They have traded likability for dependency. Modern application. The manager of the master. How do you apply this without being a jerk? You don't have to be difficult. You just have to be deeply integrated. 1. Own the relationship. If you are in sales, make sure the clients love you, not the company. If the clients say, "I only want to talk to Sarah," then Sarah owns the company. If Sarah leaves, the clients leave. That is leverage. 2.
Own the problem. Find the one problem your boss hates dealing with. Maybe it's the messy spreadsheet. Maybe it's the angry vendor. Take that problem, fix it, and make sure you are the only one willing to touch it. By taking the pain away, you become a painkiller, and people are addicted to painkillers. 3. The silent veto. When you are truly dependent, you don't need to argue. Law 9. You have the silent veto. If you don't like a decision, you simply drag your feet. You delay. Because nothing can move without you, the project stalls. Eventually, they have to come to you and ask what you want. The warning. The slave to the throne. There is a danger here. If you make yourself too indispensable, you can never be promoted. If you are the only person who can fix the printer, guess what? You are going to be fixing the printer forever. You want to be indispensable for high-value tasks, not low-value drudgery. You must be the architect, not the janitor. The homework. The bus factor audit. Here is your practice for this week. In software engineering, there is a term called the bus factor. It means, how many people would have to get hit by a bus for the project to fail? If the answer is 1, the project has a low bus factor. High risk for the company, high power for you. Audit your life. At work, what is one task that only you know how to do? Action. If you don't have one, start learning a skill this weekend that is rare and difficult. In relationships, what emotional need do you feel for your partner that no one else can? Be the listener, the stabilizer? Dependency is the web you weave to ensure you are never cast aside. Don't be the fly, be the spider. In the next part, we are going to look at the murky waters of friendship and betrayal. We are going to learn why your friends are actually more dangerous to your career than your enemies. We are going to talk about the mirror. I'll see you in part 6, the mirror.
Part 6. The Mirror. Enemies and Friends. In 867 AD, Michael III, the Emperor of Byzantium, made a fatal mistake. He saved a man's life. The man was Basilius. He was a peasant, a stable boy with no money and no future. Michael saw him taming a wild horse one day and was impressed. He promoted Basilius. He gave him money. He gave him power. He treated him like a brother. Michael thought, "This man owes me everything. He will be my most loyal friend." Michael was wrong. As Basilius rose in power, he didn't feel gratitude. He felt shame. Every time he looked at the emperor, he was reminded of his own low status. He was reminded that he was nothing without Michael's charity. That shame turned into envy. That envy turned into hatred. One night after a banquet, Basilius and his men entered the emperor's bedroom and stabbed him to death. Basilius stole the throne and ruled for 20 years. The emperor died because he violated the second law of power: never put too much trust in friends. Welcome to part 6 of the strategy of power. Today we are looking at the emotional traps of your social circle. We are going to explore why your friends are dangerous, why your enemies are useful, and why, if you must fight, you must destroy the enemy completely. We are covering Law 2 and Law 15. The problem with friendship. We like to hire our friends. We like to work with people we know. It feels safe. Robert Greene argues that this is an illusion. When you hire a friend, 2 things happen. Entitlement. They think they deserve special treatment. They show up late. They ask for raises they haven't earned. The filter disappears. You cannot be honest with them. If they do a bad job, you feel awkward criticizing them because you don't want to ruin the friendship. So the business rots from the inside. And deep down, your friend resents you. As Greene says, gratitude is a burden. No one likes to feel like a charity case. By giving them a job, you are asserting your superiority, and their ego will eventually bite you. The utility of enemies. Now look at the enemy. An enemy is someone who has opposed you, someone who has fought you. If you take a former enemy and you make peace with him, if you give him a job, he will be the most loyal employee you have ever had. Why? Because he has something to prove. He knows everyone is watching him. He knows he's on thin ice. He will work twice as hard as your friend to show that he is worthy of your trust. Lincoln's cabinet. Abraham Lincoln filled his cabinet with men who hated him, men who had run against him, men who called him a guerrilla. Why? Because he knew they were the most capable men in the country, and by harnessing their ambition, he won the Civil War. If he had hired his friends, the Union would have collapsed. The strategy. Don't fear the enemy attacking you. Fear the friend hugging you. If you have no enemies, you should be worried. It means you haven't stood for anything. As Greene says, use enemies to define your cause. A clear enemy sharpens your focus and unites your team. Law 15, crush your enemy totally.
But what if the enemy cannot be converted? What if they are determined to destroy you? Then you must switch to Law 15. Crush your enemy totally. This sounds cruel. It sounds violent. But history is littered with the corpses of leaders who stopped halfway. If you defeat an enemy but leave him with a little bit of power, a little bit of resources, and a little bit of hope, you have not won. You have created a monster. He will retreat, he will recover, he will nurse his hatred, and he will return with a vengeance that you cannot imagine. The viper metaphor. If you step on a viper but you don't kill it, it will bite you in the ankle. You must sever the head. In business, this doesn't mean physical violence. It means, if you fire someone for theft, do not give them a severance package to be nice. Cut them off. If you win a lawsuit, do not settle for a small apology. Enforce the ruling. Make it impossible for them to sue you again. Half measures are death. Mercy is a luxury that the powerful cannot always afford. If you enter a conflict, you must be prepared to end it permanently. Modern application. The co-founder trap. How do we apply this today? The most common mistake in Silicon Valley is the co-founder trap. Two best friends start a company. They split the equity 50-50. They don't sign a contract because we trust each other. 2 years later, one of them is working 80 hours a week and the other is partying. But they can't fire the slacker because he owns 50% of the company. The friendship dies, the company dies, everyone loses. The fix. Keep friendship and business separate. If you must work with a friend, sign a contract that is more strict than usual. Define the exit strategy before you start. If you don't hit these targets, you are out. If they refuse to sign it, they aren't your friend, they are a leech. The homework. The frenemy scan. Here is your task for this section. I want you to audit your inner circle. Identify the in-grade. Is there someone you have helped repeatedly who never seems to say thank you? Someone who acts like your help is expected. Action. Stop helping them immediately. Watch how quickly their attitude turns to anger. That anger reveals their true nature. Identify the rival. Is there someone at work who you consider a rival? Action. Approach them. Ask for their help on a small project. Offer them an olive branch. See if you can turn that energy into an alliance. Remember, you can always make a friend out of an enemy, but you can rarely make a friend out of an ex-friend. In the next part, we are going to look at the art of charm. We are going to learn why you should never try to impress people, and why you should instead try to yield to them. We are going to talk about the courtier. I'll see you in part 7, the courtier.
Part 7, the courtier. Social intelligence. Let's look at the ultimate survivor in the history of politics, Charles Maurice de Talleyrand. Talleyrand was a French diplomat who lived through the most dangerous, bloody period in European history. He started as a bishop under King Louis XVI. Then the French Revolution exploded. The king was beheaded, the aristocracy was slaughtered. Talleyrand, he survived. He became a revolutionary leader. Then Napoleon took power. He turned the revolution into an empire. The revolutionaries were purged. Talleyrand, he survived. He became Napoleon's foreign minister. Then Napoleon was defeated. The monarchy was restored. Talleyrand, he survived. He became the prime minister for the new king. Regime after regime collapsed. Heads rolled in the streets. Men stronger, braver, and more honest than Talleyrand were executed, but Talleyrand always remained at the center of power. How did he do it? He wasn't a warrior. He had a clubfoot. He wasn't a saint. He took bribes constantly. He survived because he was the perfect courtier. He understood that power is not a wrestling match. It is a delicate dance. He knew how to flatter without sounding fake. He knew how to deliver bad news without being blamed for it. He knew how to yield to power in order to eventually redirect it. He treated the court like a game of chess, where the pieces are human egos. Welcome to part 7 of the strategy of power. Today, we are moving away from the battlefield and into the boardroom. We are learning why hard work is rarely enough to get you promoted, and why you must master the art of indirect power. We are covering Law 24, Play the Perfect Courtier. The myth of no politics. I hear this all the time. I hate office politics. I just want to put my head down, do my job, and go home. Robert Greene has a harsh truth for you. You are naive. You are already playing the game. You just happen to be playing it badly. The workplace is a court. Whether it is Versailles in 1650 or a tech company in 2024, the dynamics are the same. It is a place where people with fragile egos compete for limited resources, money, status, attention. If you opt out of the game, you do not take the moral high ground. You simply make yourself a victim. You become the person who does all the work while someone else gets the promotion. The courtier is not a negative word. It does not mean kiss-ass. A kiss-ass is clumsy. They are obvious. They annoy the master and they disgust their peers. A courtier is an artist. They manipulate the social environment so smoothly that no one even notices they are doing it. Here are the 4 laws of the modern courtier. The law of sprezzatura, nonchalance. This is an Italian concept from the 16th century. Sprezzatura. It means making the difficult look easy. We all know the colleague who tries too hard. They stay late every night, they send emails at 2 a.m., they sigh loudly when they walk past your desk. They are always stressed, always sweating, always busy. They think they are showing the boss how hard they work.
In reality, they are signaling weakness. If you are always struggling, it implies that you are not quite good enough for the job. It implies the work is mastering you, rather than you mastering the work. The perfect courtier works just as hard, but they hide the effort. They walk into the high-stakes meeting calm, smiling, and relaxed. They present the solution as if it just occurred to them. They act as if their success is natural, a byproduct of their genius, not their grinding labor. The strategy: never show your sweat. If you stayed up all night to finish the report, do not complain about it. Present it with a smile. People are drawn to those who make success look effortless. It creates an aura of competence that hustle can never achieve. 2. The law of the mirror: adaptability. The dinosaur dies, the chameleon survives. The greatest mistake you can make in a social hierarchy is to be rigidly yourself. You must analyze the king, your boss. What is their style? The analytic. Do they love data, spreadsheets, and brevity? The visionary. Do they love big ideas, stories, and emotion? The socialite. Do they love gossip and long lunches? If you are a visionary employee working for an analytic boss, you are in danger. If you pitch them a big emotional idea without data, they won't just disagree with you. They will think you are stupid. They will think you are disorganized. You must mirror the king. If your boss writes short bullet point emails, you send short bullet point replies. If your boss likes to chat about sports for 10 minutes before the meeting, you chat about sports, even if you hate it. By mirroring their tempo and their style, you create a subconscious bond. They feel safe with you. They think, this person gets it. 3. The law of the soft no. In a court, you can never be the blocker. If the master has a terrible idea, and you say, no, that won't work, or that's a bad idea, you have committed a crime. You have insulted their intelligence. Even if you are right, you will be punished for your bluntness. But you also can't let them ruin the project, so you must use the indirect refusal. Talleyrand never said no to Napoleon. When Napoleon wanted to invade a country that Talleyrand knew was a trap, Talleyrand would say, Your Majesty, that is a brilliant plan. It will bring glory to France. However, to ensure your perfect vision is realized, we must first solve these 3 small logistical issues. He would then list issues that were impossible to solve. He would let the circumstances say no rather than saying it himself. The strategy. When your boss asks for the impossible, do not fight. Agree with the goal, but highlight the obstacles as unfortunate details that you need their help to solve. I would love to deliver this feature by Friday. To do that, we would need to cut the testing phase. Do you think that is a risk we should take? Put the choice back on them. 4. The law of the messenger. In ancient times, kings would literally execute the messenger who brought bad news. We like to think we are civilized now, but the reptilian brain hasn't changed. If you are the person who always walks into the boss's office with a problem, the server is down, the client is angry, we lost the money, the boss will subconsciously associate you with pain. They will flinch when they see you coming. You must never be the sole bearer of bad news. The strategy. The sandwich. Wrap the bad news in good news. We just closed the deal with client A. Now, client B is upset about the timeline, but we have a fix. And client C just renewed. The solution. Never bring a problem without a potential solution attached. A problem without a solution is just a complaint. A problem with a solution is a status update. Modern application. The trap of familiarity. A final, critical warning. Do not confuse being a courtier with being friends. Modern offices are dangerous because they are casual. We wear jeans, we go to happy hours, the boss tells jokes. It feels like we are all friends. This is a trap. One night after a few drinks, you might relax. You might complain about the company, you might tell an off-color joke, you might reveal that you plan to leave in 2 years. And on Monday morning, you will find that the atmosphere has changed. The master is always the master. Even when they are drunk, even when they are joking, they have the power to fire you. Talleyrand was charming, funny, and pleasant, but he never forgot his place. He maintained a thin and visible wall of respect. He never complained about his personal problems to Napoleon. He never got sloppy. Be friendly, but do not be familiar. The homework. The style audit. Here is your task for the next week. I want you to perform a style audit on your superiors. Pick the most powerful person you report to. Watch them closely for 3 days. Communication. Do they prefer email, Slack, or face-to-face? Tone. Are they formal or casual? Values. Do they value speed, doing it fast, or precision, doing it perfect? Now, look at your own behavior. If they value precision and you have been rushing to show speed, stop. You are impressing the wrong person. For 1 week, consciously adjust your output to match their values. Watch how the friction in the relationship disappears. Watch how they start to trust you more. You are not selling out. You are speaking their language so that your competence can finally be heard. In the next part, we are going to look at the most powerful weapon in strategy, which is not money or influence, but time. We are going to learn why patience is a weapon and how to force your opponents to make mistakes by rushing them. We are going to talk about the tempo. I'll see you in part 8, the tempo.
Part 8. The tempo. Timing. Joseph Fouché was the most feared man in France during the Napoleonic era. He was the minister of police. He knew everyone's secrets. But his greatest power was not his network of spies. His greatest power was his patience. Napoleon was the opposite. Napoleon was a man of speed. He moved armies faster than anyone in history. He made decisions in seconds. He was a hurricane of energy. Napoleon hated Fouché. He fired him multiple times. He threatened to shoot him, but Fouché never reacted. When Napoleon screamed, Fouché stood silent. When Napoleon rushed into war, Fouché waited. Fouché knew that Napoleon's speed was his greatest strength, but also his fatal flaw. He knew that eventually Napoleon would run out of steam. He would overextend. He would make a mistake. And Fouché just waited for that mistake. In 1815, after the Battle of Waterloo, Napoleon's speed finally failed him. He was defeated. Panic swept Paris. While everyone else was running around screaming, trying to save the government, Fouché made his move. Because he had spent years preparing for this exact moment, he calmly stepped into the power vacuum, took control of the government, and negotiated the transition to the new king. Napoleon died in exile on a lonely island. Fouché died in his bed, a wealthy and powerful man. The tortoise beat the hare. Welcome to Part 8 of The Strategy of Power. Today, we are discussing the most subtle and deadly weapon in the strategist's arsenal: time. Most people are slaves to time. They are always rushing, always late, always reacting. We are going to learn how to become the master of time. We are covering Law 35, Master the Art of Timing. The disease of hurry. Robert Greene writes, "Never seem to be in a hurry. Hurrying betrays a lack of control over yourself and over time." Look at the modern world. It is built on hurry. Act now. Limited time offer. Answer this email immediately. We are addicted to speed. We think that if we are moving fast, we are being productive. This is a lie. When you hurry, your vision narrows. You see the problem right in front of your face, but you miss the cliff edge 10 steps ahead. Hurry creates anxiety. Anxiety creates bad decisions. Bad decisions create failure. The master of power operates on their own internal clock. Have you ever seen a true leader in a crisis? Everyone else is running. They are walking slowly. By walking slowly, they signal, "I am not afraid. I have time. I am in control." This terrifies their enemies and calms their allies. The 3 types of time. To master Law 35, you must understand that time is not one thing. It is 3 things. You must master all 3. 1. Long time, defensive. This is the game of compound interest. It is the ability to wait years for a payoff. Fouché played long time. He knew that regimes rise and fall. He didn't bet on the trend of the month. He bet on human nature. In your career, long time means ignoring the get-rich-quick schemes. It means building a skill set that will be valuable in 10 years, not just 10 minutes. It involves managing your emotions so you don't quit just because you haven't succeeded in week 1. 2. Force time, offensive. This is where you use time as a weapon against others. You can disrupt an opponent's timing by forcing them to wait or by forcing them to hurry. The stall. If your opponent is eager and ready to fight, you delay. You reschedule the meeting. You ask for more paperwork. You make them wait. As they wait, their energy turns into frustration. They start to make mistakes. The rush. If your opponent is cautious and thoughtful, you demand an immediate decision. "I need an answer by 5 p.m. or the deal is off." You force them to skip their analysis, increasing the chance they will sign a bad deal. 3. End time, execution. This is the moment to strike. Patience is not passivity. You wait and wait and wait until the moment is perfect. And when that moment arrives, when the enemy is weak, when the market crashes, when the opportunity opens, you switch from tortoise to tiger. You act with overwhelming speed and force. Fouché waited 10 years, but when Napoleon fell, he took control of France in 24 hours. Modern application, the FOMO trap. The greatest enemy of Law 35 in the 21st century is FOMO, fear of missing out. The market is going up, you have to buy now. Your friends are getting promoted, you have to switch jobs now. A new technology is out, you have to pivot your company now. This is reactor mode. When you react to the news, you are dancing to someone else's tempo. The master ignores the noise. They look at the next big thing and ask, "Does this fit my long-time strategy?" If no, they ignore it. The sleep on it rule. Never make a major decision after 8 p.m. Never make a major decision when you are angry. Never make a major decision when you are excited. In those states, your chemical timing is off. You are rushing. Force yourself to wait 24 hours. If it is a good idea today, it will be a good idea tomorrow. If it was a bad idea, the heat will have faded and you will see it clearly. The power of holding back. There is immense power in withholding. In a negotiation, the person who is willing to walk away, the person who acts like they have all the time in the world, wins. The person who checks their watch, who says, "I have a flight to catch," loses. They have revealed a deadline.
Once I know your deadline, I own you. I just have to wait until 1 minute before your deadline, and you will agree to anything. Hide your deadlines. If you need a job by next week, do not tell the interviewer. Act as if you are happily employed and just looking around. If you need the sale to hit your quota, do not tell the client. Project an image of infinite time. The homework, the 15-minute pause. Here is your practice for the week. We are going to train your patience muscle. The next time you receive an urgent, stressful email or text message, do not reply. Your instinct will be to grab your phone and type, "I'm on it," or "What happened?" Stop. Force yourself to wait 15 minutes. Set a timer. During those 15 minutes, the initial chemical rush of cortisol, stress, will fade. You will start to think logically. You might realize the problem isn't actually urgent. You might draft a much better, calmer response. Then, reply. You will see that the world did not end. By delaying your response, you increase your gravity. People respect the person who replies thoughtfully more than the person who replies instantly. Time is the only thing you cannot buy. Do not give it away cheaply. In the next part, we are going to look at the darker side of attraction. We are going to learn why logic fails teen-lit people and why you must appeal to their fantasies if you want to control them. We are going to talk about the seduction. I'll see you in part 9, the seduction.
Part 9. The Seduction. Fantasy versus Reality. In 1589, a mysterious man named Il Bragadino arrived in Venice. He was wealthy, he was handsome, and he had a secret. He claimed that he possessed the Philosopher's Stone, a magical substance that could turn base metals into pure gold. Venice was a city of merchants. They were smart, cynical, and obsessed with money. They shouldn't have fallen for a cheap trick. But Bragadino was different. He didn't ask for money. In fact, he lived like a king, throwing massive parties and giving gold away to the poor. He told the Venetian Senate, "I don't need your money. I can make my own. I just want to help Venice become the richest city in the world." The Senate went crazy. They saw their fantasies coming true. Infinite wealth without work. They threw money at him. They gave him a palace. They treated him like a god. For years, Bragadino lived in absolute luxury, funded by the smartest people in Europe. Of course, he couldn't make gold. He was a con artist. He was using the money from new investors to pay off the old ones, a classic Ponzi scheme, centuries before Ponzi. But he didn't sell them a product. He sold them a fantasy. He sold them the idea that their problems could vanish instantly. Eventually, he was caught and beheaded, but for a brief moment, he owned the city. Welcome to Part 9 of the Strategy of Power. Today, we are looking at why the truth is often your enemy and why the lie is your greatest ally. We are going to learn why people reject reality and how you can tap into their deepest desires to control them. We are covering Law 32, play to people's fantasies. The tyranny of truth. We are taught from a young age, honesty is the best policy. Robert Greene argues, the truth is often avoided because it is ugly and unpleasant. Think about reality. Reality is you have to work hard for 40 years to save money. Relationships are difficult and require compromise. You are going to get old and die. This is depressing. No one wants to hear this. Now look at fantasy. Fantasy is you can get rich in 30 days with this one weird trick. You can find your soulmate and live happily ever after without effort. You can look 20 years younger with this cream. If you run a business based on hard reality, you will struggle. If you run a business based on fantasy, you will have a line out the door. People do not buy products, they buy better versions of themselves. They buy the possibility of change. The mechanism of the mirage. Why do smart people fall for scams? Why do we buy lottery tickets when we know the math is bad? Because of the will to believe. Life is hard. We are desperate for a loophole. We are desperate for magic. When someone comes along and says, "You don't have to suffer anymore. I have the key," our critical thinking shuts off. Our emotion takes over. We want to be seduced. The strategy. To use this law, you must identify the fantasy gap in your target's life. Is it money? Offer them a shortcut to wealth, crypto, passive income. Is it youth? Offer them a way to stop time, health supplements, biohacking. Is it order? Offer them a system that makes the chaos of the world make sense, political ideologies, cults. You don't have to deliver the entire fantasy. You just have to represent it. You have to be the portal through which they can glimpse the dream. The distant moon. The key to sustaining a fantasy is distance. Law 32 states, promise a great and total change, but keep it vague. If you explain exactly how your plan works, it becomes boring. It becomes work. If Bragadino had explained the chemistry of gold, people would have been bored. Instead, he used mysterious symbols and vague language. In leadership, great leaders speak in metaphors. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't say, "We need to pass legislation HR 504 to improve equality." He said, "I have a dream." He painted a picture of a promised land. He appealed to the fantasy of a perfect future.
This is not manipulation. This is inspiration. People cannot rally behind a spreadsheet. They rally behind a vision. In romance, this is the Romeo and Juliet effect. The most romantic relationships are the ones that are blocked by distance or circumstance. If you are always available, always texting back, and always transparent, you become real. You become the person who leaves dirty socks on the floor. But if you are slightly unavailable, slightly mysterious, you become a fantasy. The other person projects their perfect desires onto you. Modern application, the overnight success. How does this apply to your career? Stop selling the process, start selling the transformation. If you are a personal trainer, don't sell, we are going to do burpees for 6 months and eat broccoli. Reality, pain. Sell, unlock the body you were meant to have. Fantasy, result. If you are pitching a startup to investors, don't sell, we are a software that optimizes supply chain logistics by 4%. Boring. Sell, we are building the operating system for the entire global economy. Fantasy. You must stretch up the boring reality in the close of fantasy. Once they have bought the dream, then you can introduce the work, but you will never get them in the door with the truth. The warning, the Icarus effect. There is a massive danger here. If you promise a fantasy that is completely impossible and you deliver nothing, you will be destroyed. Bragadina was beheaded because he delivered 0 gold. You must walk the line, promise the moon, but deliver a really good flashlight. If the flashlight is good enough and you keep the dream of the moon alive, people will stay with you. But if the gap between your promise and your reality is too big, the fantasy turns into fraud, and the anger of a person who has been woken up from a dream is terrifying. The homework, the Disney audit. Here is your practice for the week. I want you to audit how you present yourself. Look at your LinkedIn profile, your dating profile, or your resume. Are you too real? I am a responsible account manager who replies to emails on time. Boring, safe, forgettable. Rewrite it to tap into a fantasy. I help companies reclaim their time and dominate their market. Bold, exciting, a savior. Ask yourself, what is the boring truth of what I do? And what is the exciting fantasy of what I enable? Stop selling the drill, start selling the hole. Better yet, start selling the shelf that goes on the wall. Even better, sell the admiration the person gets from their spouse for hanging the shelf perfectly. Reality is for people who can't handle the dream. In the next part, we are going to look at the ultimate form of control. We are going to learn why you should never force people to do what you want, and why you should instead make them choose to do what you want. We are going to talk about the Puppet Master. I'll see you in Part 10, the Puppet Master.
Part 10. The Puppet Master. Control. Let's travel to Russia, the year 1564. Ivan the Terrible, the Tsar of Russia, was in a desperate situation. The boyars, the Russian aristocrats, were plotting against him. They were blocking his laws, stealing his money, and undermining his power. Ivan tried to fight them directly, but it didn't work. Every time he issued an order, they found a way to delay it. So Ivan did something unthinkable. One morning, the citizens of Moscow woke up to find the Kremlin empty. The Tsar was gone. He had packed his wagons, taken the treasury, and fled to a remote village. He sent 2 letters back to Moscow. To the common people, he wrote, "I love you, but the corrupt boyars have made it impossible for me to rule. So I am abdicating. I am quitting. Goodbye." To the boyars, he wrote nothing. Panic swept the city. The merchants were terrified of riots. The common people were terrified of invasion. The boyars were terrified that the people would blame them, which they did. Without a czar, Russia was lost. A delegation of boyars rode out to the remote village. They found Ivan praying. They fell to their knees. They begged him to return. "We will do anything," they cried. "Just come back." Ivan looked at them and gave them a choice. "I will return, but only if you grant me absolute dictatorial power to execute anyone I suspect of treason without a trial. Or I stay here and Russia burns." The boyars had no choice. They agreed. Ivan returned to Moscow. He executed the boyars who had plotted against him. He became the absolute ruler. He didn't seize power by force. He seized it by controlling the options. He gave them a choice between total submission or total chaos. He dealt the cards so that he won either way. Welcome to the finale of the strategy of power. Today, we are learning the highest form of manipulation. We are learning how to make people walk into a trap that they built themselves. We are covering Law 31, control the options, get others to play with the cards you deal. The illusion of free will. Robert Greene writes, "The best deceptions are the ones that seem to give the other person a choice." Humans are obsessed with free will. We hate being told what to do. If you tell a child, "Go to bed," they will fight you. They will scream. It is a battle of wills. But if you ask a child, "Do you want to wear the red pajamas or the blue pajamas?" they will think for a moment, pick the red ones, and march happily to bed. Why? Because they feel like they made a choice. They feel like they are in control. They don't realize that you defined the scope of the choice. You controlled the options. Both red and blue led to the same outcome, bed. This is the essence of Law 31. Direct force is primitive. It is expensive. It creates resistance. True power is invisible.
You alter the environment so that your opponent chooses to do exactly what you want them to do. Technique 1. The horns of a dilemma. This is the strategy Ivan the Terrible used. You present your opponent with two choices. Both of them are bad for him, but one is slightly less bad and good for you. In the legal world, lawyers do this all the time. We can settle today for $50,000, or we can go to trial. It will take 3 years, cost you $200,000 in legal fees, and your reputation will be dragged through the mud. And you might lose anyway. What do you want to do? The victim chooses to settle. They feel relieved, but in reality, they were mugged. They just didn't see the gun. The strategy. Never give an enemy a clear path to escape. Give them two paths. Path A. They suffer immediate pain, giving you what you want. Path B. They suffer long-term ruin, fighting you. They will rationally choose Path A. Technique 2. Color the options. This is the most common technique in sales and negotiation. It is often called the Goldilocks strategy. If you want someone to buy your $500 product, option B. Do not just show them the product. You must frame it. Option A. A terrible cheap version for $400. Bad value. Option B. The perfect version for $500. Great value. Option C. An overpriced premium version for $1,000 that adds almost nothing. Bad value. When the customer looks at the menu, they think, well, A is junk and C is a ripoff. B is the smart choice. They pat themselves on the back for being a smart shopper. You manipulated them into picking B by surrounding it with bad options. You colored the choice. Technique 3. The shrinking option. Speed is a form of control. If a negotiation is dragging on, you must start removing options from the table. Henry Kissinger was a master of this. If a country was hesitating to sign a treaty, he would say, "The terms we are offering today are good, but I must warn you, the president is losing patience. If we don't sign by Friday, we will have to remove the clause about financial aid." Suddenly, the status quo was no longer an option. The ground is crumbling beneath their feet. They grab the deal not because they love it, but because they are afraid the deal will get worse tomorrow. The strategy. Create a decaying offer. I can do this for you today, but next month my rates are going up by 20%. Scarcity forces action. Modern application. The assumptive close. How do you use this in your daily life? Stop asking open-ended questions. Open-ended questions invite no. Don't ask, "Can we meet sometime?" Answer, "No." Don't ask, "Do you want to buy this?" Answer, "No." Use the assumptive choice. Assume they have already agreed, and just ask them to handle the details. Ask, "Should we meet on Tuesday at 3 or Wednesday at 10? Now they aren't deciding if they want to meet. They are deciding when. You have moved the goalposts past the rejection. Ask, "Do you want the receipt emailed or texted?" You assume the sale is made. This works on your boss too. Don't ask, "Can I take lead on this project?" Say, "I've sketched out a plan for the project. I can start on phase 1 this week, or I can do a deeper research dive and start next week. Which approach do you prefer?" Either way, you get the project. The warning. The cornered animal. A crucial warning from Robert Greene. Never corner a weak enemy completely. If you give someone no options, if you back them into a corner with no escape, they will fight to the death. They will act irrationally. They will burn the building down just to hurt you. You must always waste them a golden bridge to retreat across. Give them a way to save face. Ivan the Terrible let the boyars believe they were saving Russia by asking him back. He didn't say, "I beat you." He said, "I accept your request." Let your opponent feel like they retain some dignity, even as you take their wallet. The homework. The A-B diet. This is your final homework for the series. For the next week, I want you to banish the question, "What do you want to do?" from your vocabulary. Whether it is picking a restaurant with your partner or setting a deadline with a client. Always provide options. Do you want Italian or sushi? Do you want the report Friday morning or Thursday afternoon? Watch how much faster decisions are made. Watch how much more authority you project. The person who defines the options is the person who controls the reality. Conclusion. The master of the game. We have journeyed through the courts of Europe, the battlefields of China, and the boardrooms of today. We have learned to conceal our intentions. Law 3. To speak less. Law 4. To guard our reputation. Law 5. To win through action. Law 9. To create dependency. Law 11. To control the options. Law 31. The 48 laws of power are not a manual for being evil. They are a manual for seeing the world as it actually is, not as we wish it to be. The game is being played whether you want to play it or not. Now you have the cards. Now you know the rules. The rest is up to you. Thank you for listening to The Strategy of Power.